All right, so if you're on the path to becoming a surgeon, we need to talk about one of the most fundamental processes you will ever have to manage. It's the body's incredible and sometimes really dangerous response to injury. Let's dive in and break down this controlled chaos.
So, I want you to picture this. You've just nailed a technically perfect operation. Everything went smoothly. The patient's stable. But what is the single biggest hurdle they're about to face? You might be surprised to learn it's often not the surgical site itself, but the body's own overwhelming reaction to the trauma. You see, in modern medicine, most hospital deaths after a major injury aren't a direct result of that initial wound. Nope. They're from the complex physiological cascade that comes after.
So over the next few minutes, we're going to map this whole thing out. We'll start with the survival alarm that gets triggered when the body's balance is thrown off. Then we'll look at the two very distinct phases of the response. Meet the hormonal and inflammatory messengers calling the shots, and really understand the steep price the body pays for survival. And finally, and this is the important part, we'll explore how modern surgery is learning to control this chaos.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this survival response, we first have to understand the state of balance it completely shatters.
And that state is called homeostasis. You can think of it as the body's factory settings, just a perfectly balanced internal environment where everything works just the way it's supposed to. It is the calm, stable baseline that major surgery and trauma completely disrupt. And this slide really shows you the stark contrast, right? On the left, you've got homeostasis, calm, stable, optimal. But on the right, that's the reality after a major injury. It's a body-wide emergency. The whole goal shifts from optimal function to pure, raw survival. The body flips into a state of catabolism, where it literally starts breaking down its own tissues just to fuel the fight for life.
Now, this survival response, it doesn't just happen all at once in some big chaotic mess. It's actually more like a carefully orchestrated two-act play.
The key concept here is that the response is biphasic, and all that means is that it unfolds in two very distinct phases, the ebb phase and the flow phase. Let's break down what's happening in each one. First up is the ebb phase. This happens in the first 24 to 48 hours. The body's only goal here is to conserve energy and hang on to its circulating volume. Think of it like a ship battening down the hatches in a hurricane. Metabolic rate drops, body temperature drops, cardiac output drops. Then, once the patient is resuscitated and stable, the flow phase kicks in. And here, the mission changes completely. The goal is now mobilization. The body cranks up its furnace. Metabolic rate skyrockets, temperature goes up, cardiac output increases, all to get energy stores to the site of injury for repair. So who's pulling all the strings here? This entire complex operation is being directed by two really powerful sets of messengers, the neuroendocrine system and the inflammatory system.
The first response is hormonal, and it is fast. An injury sends pain signals straight to the hypothalamus, that's the body's command center. The hypothalamus then releases something called corticotropin-releasing factor, or CRF, which is basically an order to the pituitary gland to release adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH. That hormone then signals the adrenal glands to flood the system with cortisol and adrenaline. It's that classic fight-or-flight stress cascade, and it immediately starts liberating glucose and breaking down fat and protein for a quick fuel source.
At the exact same time, a slower but incredibly powerful inflammatory response starts to kick in. Damaged cells release these little alarm signals called DAMPs. Think of them like SOS flares. These are spotted by receptors on our immune cells, which in turn activate things called inflammasomes. This triggers a huge flood of cytokines, molecules like IL-1, IL-6, and TNF-alpha, and these are the real drivers of the systemic effects we see, like fever and that breakdown of skeletal muscle. So, here's the absolute crucial point. This entire response is a double-edged sword. It's designed to provide essential resources for survival and to optimize our defenses. In the short term, it's brilliant. It's exactly what we need. But if it continues unchecked, especially in a critically ill patient, this very same survival mechanism becomes incredibly harmful and leads to some devastating consequences. And that brings us to the price of this response. Because when the body is essentially cannibalizing itself to survive, well, that comes at a really high cost.
Just look at this number. During severe sepsis, a patient can lose half a kilogram, that's over a pound, of skeletal muscle every single day. And we're not talking about fat here. This is functional tissue, the diaphragm for breathing, the heart muscle, being broken down for fuel. This is the brutal reality of catabolism.
And this muscle wasting, it sets off a devastating domino effect. The loss of respiratory muscles makes the patient vulnerable to pneumonia. The body becomes resistant to insulin, which leads to high blood sugar. and that impairs immune function and raises the risk of infection. This whole thing can spiral into what we call multiple organ dysfunction syndrome, or MODS, which, by the way, carries a mortality rate of around 25%.
Okay, so knowing all of this, how can we as clinicians actually step in? Well, this is where modern perioperative care has made huge strides, using a strategy called Enhanced Recovery After Surgery, or ERAS. And the goal here isn't to stop the response. You can't. It's to control it.
The very first step is just to avoid making things worse. We need to eliminate factors that act like gasoline on a fire. These are things we can actually control. Preventing hypothermia, avoiding prolonged starvation, and getting the patient moving early. These simple steps alone can significantly dampen the negative effects of the stress response. ERAS takes a proactive, multimodal approach. It hits the problem from multiple angles. First, you minimize the initial injury with things like laparoscopic surgery. Second, you block those afferent pain signals with really effective analgesia. I mean, if the alarm signal is quieter, the response is going to be weaker. Third, you minimize fasting and give nutrition early. Give the body external fuel so it doesn't have to break down as much of itself. And finally, you get the patient up and moving to combat that muscle wasting. And the results? They're undeniable. By actively managing this metabolic response, ERAS protocols have been proven to slash hospital stays by 30 to 50% and significantly improve patient outcomes. This isn't just some theory. It's a fundamental shift in surgical care that you are absolutely going to be a part of.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We've just explored a survival response that has been honed over millennia of evolution. But as our surgical techniques get more and more refined, causing far less trauma, how will this ancient, powerful response need to adapt? What does the future of recovery even look like? It's a question that you, as future surgeons, are going to help answer. Thanks for watching.